it's time for another segment of What Grinds Todd's Gears.
So I guess continuing on that, since you said that y'all are talking about minor league teams that won't ship out of state or are too expensive for the shipping. What grinds my gears, and I'm not going to call out anybody in particular here, but if you agree to pay a set rent to someone, to a landlord or whatnot, I think it's your obligation to pay that rent monthly.
You mean a monthly rent? Yeah.
Yeah, a monthly rent.
I mean, there's usually contracts that state you have to do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Am I wrong?
One would think.
What am I missing here, Travis?
But
not if you're related to the landlord.
if you don't pay your rent on time, especially when, let's just say your landlord needs that monthly rent to live, just an asshole. And I'm just going to leave it at that. That's what really grinds my gears.
A very cryptic what grinds my gears from Travis.
If people can't pay their rent on time to people who may or may not be family and who rely on that money, then you're just an asshole.
So if you're listening, don't be a douchebag. Like,
pay your fucking rent.
Well, if they're listening, they might not be able to afford. I don't know if they're listening. Can they afford Spotify or a device to listen to this podcast on?
Even on free Spotify.
Something tells me said person would probably spend his or her money on things that they enjoy, rather than paying rent to people who need that money.
I mean, in this day and age, there are a lot of ways you can make supplemental income. I mean, if you've got 2 feet or you've got a foot, you might be able to find a website that caters to that market that you could buy or sell some things on.
Speaking of grinds my gears, that fucking song that I can't stand. Is it like Neo and Pitbull? It was like my rent was due a week ago, but I can't, I'm not going to pay that. I'm going to go out to the club and have the time of my life. It's like, yeah, let's not pay our bills. Let's go out and spend it on alcohol at the club. I hate that song.
I'll bet there are some parallels there to what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah.
But I'll just
like
leave it
glorifying me like, I can't pay my bills, but I'm going to blow any money I have on fucking the club.
Well, you say that, but then the big timers gave us a song, Gator Boots, that Gucci, can't do job.
Mm-hmm.
So
got a quarter tank of gas in my new E-Class.
No, that's not stay fly.
So let's just say it grinds my gears when people don't pay their rent on time.
Our rent was due about a week ago.
Well, I'm going to kind of break away from the whole rent thing and kind of continue what we're talking about with sports. I have several things that grind my gears, as you may know. That's how the segment kind of birthed this name. But, and I've been saving one for a while, kind of to piggyback on one thing that Patrick mentioned a while ago. But since we're on the sports topic, and I spent my whole weekend basically watching travel ball, which I tend to do every, I guess, bi-weekly.
Not to cut you off, but real quick, is this your official What Grinds My Gears?
Yeah.
All right.
You put your hands up on the fence and watch it.
I kind of do. I kind of have the little
the travel ball dad
lean.
All right, well, go for it.
And I'm going to tell you why I mainly do that, though, and it's because, when you go to these baseball parks that have all these games going on, you basically have, y'all been to, Patrick's played softball and kickball and whatnot. He's been to LaSalle
too many times.
Umpteenth million times. At LaSalle, you basically have like I think there's like four fields up there in the quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
But you got all these people just kind of piled in the middle. Yep. So one reason why I like to go over off along the fence and kind of lean up like the travel ball dad is to kind of get away from these people. But there's just a couple things about travel ball that grinds my gears. One is mainly, you pay all this money to be on a team. Like we pay $100, but you really had to pay. I think
it's leftovers.
I think one of the main issues that I have is, aside from paying all this money for your kid to be on the team, you actually got to pay $10 at the gate just to get in to watch your kid play. So, with rec league, you basically pay like, $5? And you get to watch your kid play for free after that.
All season, yep.
The travel ball, it's in the fall, it's in the spring, it's basically year round. And every time you go to one of these travel ball parks, you're paying $10 to watch basically get in for a day. So if you got this weekend, let me kind of break it down for you. For those of you who've never had a kid to play travel ball, you have two. Yeah, they only 3 days a week, but the Saturday games are called pool play games. So you basically play two games on Saturday. So you pay $10 to get in and watch. You pay $10 on Saturday to watch your kid play 2 games, and those are called pool play games, and that sets up your seating for Sunday. And Sunday is what's called tournament play.
So it's like a full-blown World Cup, like in 2 days.
Yeah, basically. So you play the tournament games on Sunday, but that's, you would think that the $10 would cover you for those 2 days, right?
Nope.
No, wrong. You pay $10 to get in for Saturday and Sunday, so it's $20
per person.
per person. So if you bring your wife and your daughter, who's now 12, that's $60 per person per week of watching this travel ball.
Sounds like highway robbery.
So you pay this fee to watch your kid play baseball. I mean, you pay this $100 hundreds of dollars fee to have your kid on the team. Then you pay $10 per day of each tournament that the kid plays in. So it's a lot of money wasted. Not necessarily wasted, but I guess just to watch your kid play baseball. And
It's not a wasted wagon.
and it's a shame because I feel like in now today's age, if you want your kid to play high school baseball, this is the route you have to take. There's if your kid plays just rec league baseball, it's just it's kind of like obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have if your kid plays rec league baseball just in the spring, it's just he's probably no prayer of making a high school baseball team. So it's unfortunate, but you got to pay all this money just to have your kid play high school baseball or even beyond that. But I think, again, kind of going back to what I was saying as far as like me leaning on the fence and kind of sitting along, watching the game from basically the outfield side, I don't like a lot of the people that are at these games. I mean, if you see some of these parents, most of the parents that are at these travel ball games, they already think their kids have Division I scholarships locked up. I mean, they think their kids just piss excellence. And it's like, that's not the kind of people I really want to associate with. I mean, I was never really raised that way. I was never really a supreme athlete.
My baby's going pro.
I mean, I played, we played baseball, we played soccer, we played basketball, but I never played competitive baseball. I wasn't good enough to play high school baseball or God forbid, get a Division I scholarship to play baseball. But it's sad because I think this is the route you have to take now in order to let your kid advance to the next level to play baseball.
And I think what you said, two things off of that. What you said about the idea of you don't necessarily want to be around those people. That's kind of the thing that drove me away from baseball. Just kind of that whole political aspect of it, and I'll kiss this guy's ass if if you let my son do this, or I kiss your ass, you kiss my ass, and meanwhile the kids who are trying their hearts out and are just trying to play for fun are the ones who are getting screwed because there's no politics behind it, or there's no daddy kissing this daddy's butt. So that really drove me away from the sport of baseball for my son. I made it really, I say that for myself, but for him, I gave him the option of last year going back to baseball after experiencing 2 years back to back of that, and he opted to not go back. But the same thing, the second thing off of that is I went out to Hammond last week to support Todd's son at travel ball, and same kind of thing. We actually, you can't really predict the travel ball schedule. So like Todd said, the game was at 1, I think it was at 1 o'clock. And he calls me, he says, "Hey, where are y'all at?" And I said, "We're about like 30 minutes away, on the way to Hammond." He said, "Oh, well, the next game's about to start. They're running early." Mm-hmm. So it's like, even though the game was set for 1, if they were running early, they're going to start it early. So we get there. I think we only missed like 1 inning, but we had to pay $20 to get in for me and Heather. They didn't charge Scarlett because she was only 8 and Carson was off with a friend. But yeah, so it's $20 to go watch a few innings of baseball, and then we left them with the Gnarly. So that made the experience a little more enjoyable. But yeah,
I guess grab is what you're trying to say.
Pretty much,
definitely a big money grab. The thing is though, Travis was saying that the game that he went to last week was running early. Most of the games don't run early. Most of them actually are running behind. So you're basically stuck there until God knows what time. We were doing this podcast today, and Camden had a tournament this morning, and I was worried that I wasn't even going to be able to do the tournament because they played pretty well yesterday. But they played a team today that I think was very, very evenly matched with them, and they absolutely got blown out. But I thought we were going to win a lot today based off the way we were playing yesterday. And I was worried we weren't going to be able to.
It looks like blood.
I was worried we weren't going to be able to do the podcast today because we might keep winning.
I definitely don't envy the parents that stick with it for their kids for play travel ball, because not even taking into account the financial investment, the time investment is such a huge thing between not even for just the games or the tournaments, the practice, it's a lot. And then you get to the tournaments, and we fought some of the same problems playing travel softball. Like, games don't start on time, fields or whatever condition, like you got to travel and this and that to get there. There's all the politics of who plays and who starts and stuff like that. Not as exactly the same, but there is some of that.
And I'm going to tell you this, like, you know, I mean, Camden was just in here. You've seen my kid. He's very, very undersized for a 10-year-old, but he has the skill. Like, he has the skill set to play. It's just I feel like he's constantly overlooked because of his size. Now he's on a good team, but I still feel like he doesn't necessarily get his fair shot to do everything.
Right.
Like, he loves to pitch, and he does a reasonably good job when he pitches. And he pitched last weekend, and that was the first time he's pitched since Mother's Day weekend last year. So, I mean, it's very much a political thing, and it's also very much based off of the potential of the kids as far as their size, their ability. I feel like my kid is constantly overlooked because of that.
I bet Camden pitched better than Wainwright did the last 2 seasons. Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Like, I have a little bit of a unique perspective in that one of my good friends, his daughter, played travel ball, and she was actually on the JPRD team that went to the World Series back-to-back years. And just watching the parents at those events and how they acted with their all-star kid who wasn't an all-star, and how certain players got more girls got certain more playing time than others because they know someone, or they're in with the coach and this and that. And not saying like my friend's daughter wasn't good, because she wasn't. She was a star, so she didn't have to deal with that. But you see other kids that were playing, they were only playing because the mom or the dad had an in some way, or they got some favoritism, and the kid really should have been out. And they weren't really hurting the team, but the team could have been much better, or that there's a better player waiting to take that kid's spot. Now, if it's a freshman and a senior, there might be some level of hierarchy that kind of gets thrown into that. But at the end of the day, talent should be the number one decider for your kid being on the field and playing. But it rarely is the case for a lot of situations, because there are all these other behind the scenes factors at play
I'm not
here.
gonna name any names, schools, anything like this, but I've heard from people that have coached before. It's like said in jest, but it's like it's probably not that untrue that the way that these coaches pick their teams, it sounds pathetic, but it's like, okay, you got your studs. You know, you pick the studs of the first tier. Second tier is friends, family, people that you know, like the ones that get in, whether their kid's good or not. But it's like, oh, well, like, yeah, of course, I'm gonna put you. You're my boy. I'm gonna put your kid on the team.
Or your daughter sold so many thousands of dollars worth of tickets, and it's not. We're gonna let you play more because you paid so much money.
Tier, which I've laughed about with some of these dads, or whatever, is that the ones that have hot moms.
Well,
Put the kid on the team so the hot mom shows up at the game every week.
I might know one mom that got a kid more playing time than another, because
not necessarily playing time, but they're on the team because mom comes to the game every week.
And they encourage the mom to show up and bring her attitude and flair.
Or assets.
Yes.
But I'll throw it in there. I went in there, and so I got away from it. Got away from baseball because of the politics of it. My son's last year of baseball was 2 years ago, and I considered the coach at the time, a decent friend. He had coached my son before, and I was actually kind of happy he ended up on his team at first. And my son went into that season with the expectation that he was going to be playing outfield. And he went into that, and he said, "Look, I had a bad year last year. I'm probably going to be playing outfield." Well, first day of practice, when he got picked on this team, they have a kid standing behind home plate, and he's got no gear on, so no catching gear. So then I talked to the coach and I said, hey, I got some catching gear in my car if the boy behind home plate wants to use it. And he's like, wait, you got catching gear? Your son's played catcher before? And I was like, yeah, he's got, that's really what he wanted to play, but he's just going to be content with where you put him. So he said, okay, let's get your son in the gear. So he ended up being catcher for the first 6 games of the season. I think they had like a 4-2 record at the time. Carson was on the best start hitting that he's ever had in his career. He was kind of like riding a high, loving baseball, playing catcher, hitting well. And then all of a sudden, one game, they switched another kid into his spot. And I didn't say anything. I know these guys don't get paid. I know it's a volunteer job, whatnot. And I was just thinking like, okay, maybe he's rotating some kids in at catcher, whatnot. Well, he never put my son back at catcher the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm sitting there volunteering, helping in the dugout, considering this guy somewhat of a friend. And I have no idea what's going on until I started hearing the kids talk in the dugout. And then what ended up actually happening, the kid who replaced my son at catcher, his dad was a travel ball coach.
Yeah, this kid actually played on Camden's team the first year.
So this guy wasn't part of the coaching staff, all of a sudden made himself part of the coaching staff. His son starts playing catcher. And I start hearing the kids in the dugout talking about their travel ball season coming up. And I'm, again, just ears listening to the dugout. Well, what he did was this guy comes in and whispers in the head coach's ears, like, hey, you make my son catcher and I'll put your son on my travel ball team.
Of course.
And, what all that did for my son was basically tell him he's not good enough. And, like, I knew that wasn't the case.
Shatter his confidence.
But I knew that wasn't the case. But at the same point, that's the way my son took it. He didn't originally realize what was going on. He just said, oh, well, he stuffed me in the outfield. That just must suck. Mm-hmm. And it destroyed him from baseball. And that's why when I went 2 years ago, went back to it and said, like, hey, because of what happened, if you don't want to play anymore, understand. And that's what he said. He said, no, I don't want to play anymore. So shithead coaches like that, destroy kids' confidence.
Yeah, travel ball was never something I ever thought I'd put my kid in because, Travis and I coached a kid at Rummel in hockey who played travel ball, and his 2 younger brothers played travel ball, and the dad would post about it every weekend on Facebook, and I'm like, man, he's there every weekend. Like, he has no social life. I do not want that. And the reason why Camden got affiliated with it, kind of like what Travis was saying, that he's listening to all these ears in the listen to what these kids are saying in the dugout. The reason why I got involved in travel ball is because I just looked at it and was like, these kids who are playing rec ball go nowhere. Camden played 2 years at Miley, and there was like 4 kids on the team that tried, and the rest of them were like tackling each other in the outfield and digging fucking making sandcastles in the fucking red dirt.
Hey Brian, how many outs we got out there? Grape. I'm gonna get a grape snowball after the game.
Like Travis said, he helped coach that team. I helped coach my first year when Camden was at Miley. And it was constant. You had to tell these kids to get up, get baseball ready. Then they would sit their asses right back down in the dirt, start building sandcastles. So I was told about the East Bank League. So I joined that. And
if we want to talk about money grabs.
And the East Bank League, the only thing I'm thankful for is getting associated with the team that Camden's on now. East Bank was definitely a big money grab. It was basically like a rest stop for travel ball kids.
So if you want my opinion on it, it's a overpriced rec league where they, it's one.
The key to the travel ball kid.
We talk about Mike Miley or Gerard being $4 or $5 to play for the season. This was a $200 league. Same quality, actually probably worse quality coaching.
Oh yeah.
Because all these coaches did, the guy that coached my son looked like he'd never played an inning of baseball in his life.
Looked like he did any kind of physical activity in his life.
He, it was a straight, I don't give a shit about kids who don't play travel ball. We're gonna see.
Stu was more than good.
We're gonna see if your son's good enough to play on our travel ball team called the Sun Devils, and the rest of the team they could give 2 shits about. So East Bank Little League, if you're listening, you're a straight money grab bullshit league.
I guess we're not going to get sponsored from them.
I don't want a sponsor from them. They can suck my balls.
Oh my God!
But also
like Sean Payton.
But kind of like what Travis said with the worst coaching,
they can suck my balls. Like
the guy that we got associated with was one of the coaches at the Redbirds. He was Camden's East Bank coach, and he's the one that kind of got us on the Redbirds. But when the season started, we practiced one time it was like Sunday at like, let's say 9:00. So I show up and I'm thinking this is going to be like a weekly thing. Sunday at 9:00, we're practicing. So we go out there, we have our first practice, and I show up the next week with Camden, assuming the practice is that time again. Nobody's there. I'm like, what the hell happened? So I text the coach and I'm like, are we practicing today? I was under the impression we're practicing every Sunday at 9:00. And he's like, no, it's going to be hard for us to practice because with all the travel ball kids we have on this team, it's going to be really hard to organize a practice. So aside from Travis saying it was like $200 to join this league, these kids never practiced.
Right.
And that's one of the things that got me away from Mike Miley is in the 2 seasons that Camden played at rec ball at Miley, we practiced one time each season for each team. So this was exactly the same except we were paying $200 more.
Cool.
So yeah, East Bank Little League is an absolute joke. And again, it was like all to cater to travel ball kids. It was travel ball kids batting at the top of the lineup, playing in the infield. The rec ball kids batted at the bottom.
Yeah.
Played catcher and outfield.
Well, Carson's group at the time, they had to show you that the catchers were, it was kid pitch, so the catchers were still travel ball kids. It was just the outfield was made up of rec ball kids, and then again you batted 12th or 13th in the lineup every game, And I felt bad for putting my son through that. I felt guilty, and same kind of thing. I said, all right, let's try one more year at Mike Miley and see where it goes. And again, it started well and ended up much the same. So. But anyway, we didn't think we had much to grind gears about, but we kind of went off on a long gear grinding segment.
Some things and stuff we need to get off our chests, and I'm glad we all got that. Yeah. A good way to finish off the episode. We'll get to the shot in the next part of this recording, which will be our top 5 list. Which I don't know how we all feel about this top 5 list. I
feel wonderful.
I really like this top 5 list.
I love the topic.
Mine's more like a top 10, but I have a top 5.
I love the topic.
That's what makes it hard.
I don't know how much I love the order of my list.
But if you're interested and you want to hear more about what we have to talk about in our no particular order segment, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We'll be back.